Hey guys, my name is Sean Barbour. I am Instinct Comic Books, and this is In My Unprofessional Opinion, the comic book podcast where I review indie comic books based on the technical abilities inside it by rating them on 5 categories: story and concept, writing and dialogue, art and visual storytelling, lettering and readability, and then overall execution. After that, I throw it all out the window and let you know what I really think. Because sometimes being professional doesn't make you memorable or successful. And sometimes the technical stuff doesn't mean as much as the fact that the comic made you actually feel something, right? As far as the grounds of knowledge that I come from, I am a comic book creator. I am an author of novels, writer of comic books. I'm, like I said, an inker. I am a creator. I've got titles of my own. I've worked on over 30 other titles for other folks as well. And I've also done comic book reviews for a website called Outright Geekery. So shout out to them for laying the foundation for me to knowing what the technical aspects that I should be looking at when I'm rating these comic books and breaking them down to their base elements and just really laying into them, but in an honest and forward way, in the hopes that it's constructive and we are all leveling up together, right? So without further ado, I'd like to let you guys know the comic book for this issue is called Hellstones, and it's brought to you by Pigmacast Studios and the creator Frank Walk. And this comic book settles in the genre of a supernatural action, dark fantasy adventure comic book. And I will have the website that you guys can go to down in the description of the video, because I want to make sure you guys find your way there and help out, because these guys have a comic book Kickstarter coming pretty soon. And I mean, you'll find out whether I think this thing should be funded or not, right? Anyway, like I said, without further ado, let's get right back into the pages here. I want to give you guys the elevator pitch for Hellstones, as you can see over here. When Sam, the character on the cover there, when Sam senses that her mentor and his Hellstone may be in danger, she is forced out of hiding into a violent supernatural conflict between ancient power, corporate ambition, and religious manipulation. I know, a lot going on there, right? Well, issue number 0 gave me the foundation for what those Hellstones are and where they come from and how, and you really need to get in on that action, because I like the dark undertones for it, personally. Anyway, first impression as I was going through this comic book, I know I'm going to jumping back and forth here to the pages, but first impression is that this book was set up nicely with issue number 0, but this issue provides you the emotional anchor for what's going to be driving the series. And it really gives you a good insight to who Sam is as the main protagonist, and helps build the initial aspects of the lore to the story, right? So immediately what stood out is the artwork. As I was flipping through the pages here, scrolling through the pages rather, the artwork, while it's good, sometimes I will tell you that it is outdone by the coloring. The coloring actually really helped level it up, and I'll be digging into that even more as we go along in my unprofessional opinion, the technical part of the breakdown. All right, so starting out, story and concept, right? Did I find this story interesting? I did find it interesting. I found it to be easily marketable because there is stuff that I've experienced, read, watched, seen that is in the blend of this genre with similar subject information for the building blocks of the story. Did it hook me? Eventually it did. I did enjoy issue number 0 with the exposition that was there, giving you the backstory, and then issue number 1 while issue number 2 built the intrigue, issue number 1 really kind of hooked me by the end. So I do believe that this would benefit from like a prologue section. I know it would mess with the page count a little bit, but if I'm going for that technical thing, if this is somebody's first time in, I would suggest getting that number 0 if it's not organically provided with this issue number 1. Did it feel original, or did it feel really familiar? To me, in this comic book, Hellstones, nothing was really new as far as thematically or anything. It did have some elements, I feel, that were being pulled out, which were like Indiana Jones, Uncharted, Tomb Raider meets like a softer version of Hellblazer, or maybe even The Darkness. So as far as having like a page turn factor early on in the book, there is a page turn factor. I didn't want to check my phone or anything, but it was telling the story. I didn't necessarily have any really big, like say, odd page cliffhangers. So if you know, when you're building a comic book that does have intrigue and those reveals and stuff like that, you want to have those be on the odd pages. So it builds that suspense for what that big reveal on the page turn, right? And while I didn't necessarily get any of that through on the technical side of things with this comic, I will say that the way that the story was written, it really did drive you through the entirety of the issue. But favorite story or concept elements for this? Yeah, the favorite story elements, I would say, probably is that it really has plenty of room for expansion. The building blocks are kind of laid out there. There's a lot of introductions to a lot of things going on in this comic book between issue number 0 and 1 even. But I would say maybe if I was to point out one of the weakest points to maybe the issue is that, I'll show you this page here, that divine power on display. The Lightbringers, you get introduced to them more as concept than character. And what I say is that a lot of times the antagonist or the opposing party of any kind of comic book, you really want to feel their presence. And it was more of a functional thing here. It was part of the world building, but you didn't really feel any impact. So between that and Lucient Holdings, they're there. They serve their purpose. But could there have been more? I mean, as far as building that initial concept and the story right off the bat, yeah, probably. So with that, the story and concept, I'm going to give this a 3.5. It's not necessarily emotionally investing at this point with the antagonist side of things, but future issues will probably, and I have a strong belief that it'll resolve that issue. So, like I said, based on the most brutal side of the technical aspects of this, I'm going to give it that 3.5 for that story and concept. The originality isn't the strong point, but execution of the issue is maybe stronger than the premise alone, right? So, next up, we're going to go with writing and dialogue. Okay? So, and just to do that, like I do like this page for that as well. Did the dialogue feel natural? I mean, yeah, it did, mostly. Again, there's a lot of things in this comic book that are serving more of function than and some of the dialogue does that same thing. Some of the way that they're speaking is more to serve informational purposes, but not in a sense that really pulls you out of how somebody would actually talk. So it's noticeable if you're looking for it, like I am obviously during a technical breakdown. But is it something that is going to bring you out of the story or anything? Absolutely not. So the dialogue between Gary and Sam, like pictured here, is probably one of the stronger points as far as the dialogue. You actually start to see some of that background. You want to know a little bit more about Gary. You get those questions that the issue is setting you up for, and hopefully that you find answers to as you go through the comic book, right? And hopefully, you feel that connection, and the introduction to the connectivity between the main character is there in that dialogue. Um, uh, as far as being clunky or distracting, I would probably say, like I said, based again on the technicality, the only character that really gets a distinct voice is Sam, because you don't necessarily hear a lot from very many of the other characters. It's a very Sam-centric episode. And so while I would have liked to get a little bit more pieces of, like I said, the Lightbringers, Lucient Holdings, Gary, some of that, maybe some more banter between the people that are chasing Sam early in the issue, would have been kind of cool. But yeah, moving on to the art and visual storytelling, can the story be followed visually? I mean, absolutely. You can tell exactly what's going on the pages. There's no muddied context. The expressions are clear. You definitely get to see and get that sense of what's going on. Nothing is covered up by anything that's unnecessary, right? It feels dangerous, and there's definitely tension there. And like I said, it is communicated well. Visual strengths, like as I mentioned, you get the feel of that tension, the driving force. You get dropped right into the action in this book, and it kind of carries it through, right? Memorable panel or pages. Let me get to it. I did really like the way that this page was set up. I love the way that the sights are breaking the panel. You get that 3-person layout. You see her running. You see her preparing. There's a lot going on, even just on this page, and I actually really appreciate it. This is one of the most memorable pages for me because of exactly what's kind of going on. You get a sense of kind of everything that's happening. So as far as for the art and visual storytelling, the biggest weakness I would probably say is going to be the artistic cohesion. And don't hear what I'm not telling you. The artwork is fantastic, but if I'm pulling it apart, the coloring at times actually crushes the line work. And what I mean is that the coloring is bringing up this comic book by 2 levels rather than just a standard one. And what I would have liked to have seen as an inker would have been maybe more line depth, some separation to build that. You can tell like the forearm like is the same as the line weight from the background to that tree there in the bottom right hand panel. So bringing in some of those thicker line weights, creating some of that depth would have probably leveled up some of the line work, and you really would have just leveled up the whole thing another level. But as it is, definitely I'd probably give this an overall a 3.5, just because I feel that the coloring actually made me pay more attention to the fact that the line work, while good, while consistent, we're really missing some of the depth that could have been there. So the colors outdo the line work and carrying the depth and energy, which can leave that line work kind of feeling flat in some spaces. But yeah, no. Moving on to lettering and readability. Was the lettering easy to read? Absolutely. The balloon placement was strong. The lettering never pulled you out of the experience. Everything was where it needed to be. It didn't cover up any artwork. It didn't cover up any unnecessary action. It was definitely, it served its purpose. You didn't get any extra, but you didn't feel like you were lacking very much. Based on, like I said, the technical aspects of that. The only thing is maybe that could have been a little bit better would be the sound effects, possibly. I felt that they were serving more of a purpose, and I can highlight that here, showing you this page, where you can see that thud. You see that it's happening. It serves its purpose. It's letting you know that it's happening. But is it done in a way that makes you really feel that impact, like in a Hulk smash or something like that? Do you really feel that impact? I don't think it's carrying through as strong as it could have. And a lot of that lettering kind of is doing the same thing, right? It's giving you the information, but you aren't necessarily feeling it. There's not anything really there that really stands out. But that being said, I would still give the lettering and readability a strong 4.5. Technicality has it going on here as far as it knows what it's trying to do. It sticks to it, and it doesn't leave you lacking if you're really breaking it down. But moving on to overall execution. Didn't the comic feel polished? It absolutely did. It didn't feel rushed or anything. It wasn't perfect, but was it polished? I definitely feel like it was to a point where the creator was looking at it going, this is something I would be proud of to put out. So pacing is definitely strong. The comic book, it comes in hot, right? And like I said, I know I'm going back and forth here, but showing you these pages, you get brought right in to the action, only taking a break to build some character moments that are impactful to the story and let you know a little bit more about each one of the characters. Did the comic feel rushed? No. Overall strengths. Sam is a really strong protagonist. They are the catalyst for this entire story. They are the focus of the first issue. So it's done really, really well for that. It's not confusing as it builds for future mysteries. It's supporting cast could have used more development. Like I said, Lucient Holdings, the Lightbringers, that kind of stuff. The coloring sometimes did, like I said, it crushed a little bit. The sound effects could have been a little bit stronger, but if you're putting those things together, the overall execution and looking at it from the technical aspect of how it was done, it still deserves that 4 out of 5. So well done. So taking all those and breaking them down, the final score, the story and concept, 3.5, writing and dialogue, 4 out of 5, art and visual storytelling, 3.5, lettering and readability, 4.5, overall execution is still a 4, bringing me to 19.5 points out of a possible 25. Leave me on the strong side of definitely recommending that you check this out. The important question now, though, for those of you that really have been wanting to hang out and bearing with me through the technical breakdown, the stuff where somebody might learn to love or hate me, whether you're the creator or potential reader or a fan of Hellstones, this is where I tell you, me, Sean, Instinct from Instinct Comics, me personally, as a reader, as a fan of comic books, how do I feel about this comic book? And the first question that I know that people would want to know, especially the creators, would I spend money on this? And I definitely would. I'm convinced the storyteller knows how to tell a story. I know where they want. I know by how this is delivered that they have a trajectory that they're following. They have a path that they want to go to take, and a story that they want to deliver to you in a very structured way. And it's well done. I appreciated it. I like the darker elements that are existing, even though it might be delivered in a lighter way. Like I said, it's not the darkness, but you get some of that darker, like, background information, what the Hellstones are. Could you maybe have had more information? You really, I think that this image, which is on the back inside cover of the comic, I think it probably could have been like on like towards the front to give you more of the idea of what these Hellstones are if you didn't get number 0, just to kind of get you caught up and be intrigued. So you're paying attention. What color is Sam's stone? What color is Gary's stone? That kind of thing. What kind of things do they represent? But would I spend my money on this? Yes, I would. It's because of Sam. Sam is the anchor to the comic. I like Sam. Sam's a great character. But if you were to go to a convention, right? And let's say somebody was the creator, Mr. Walk, was pitching this book to you, right? And they just gave you the elements of the book and said, hey, would you like to take a second, look at my comic book? And you're like, okay, well, what is it about? And they said, well, it's got ancient relics, secret organizations, corporate villains, religious manipulation, and a chosen protector. I'm going to say I've heard all of that before, right? You've seen it probably a million times. So if looking at it that way, that's probably not the most compelling. But if I was the creator pitching this book as they did in the pitch, I would definitely recommend going with Sam as the anchor. They are the driving force on this book, and it shows. And I love it. So the hook to this comic book is Sam. Okay? So who would enjoy this comic book? Like I said, people that are fans of like Tomb Raider with a softer version of like Hellblazer or the Darkness, you're going to like the elements to this story. What is this comic book trying to achieve? I think like I said, for me, it looks like it's building a long-term, supernatural mythology in itself. So, and it's using Sam as the anchor to the story. And so, does it achieve that goal? It does. While it may not be the most technically perfect book, it definitely does a great job at what it does. If I were to choose one thing that I think would set it even higher as far as the story for me, the comic book as a whole, as a reader, I would have liked to have felt as if the opposing forces were a bit stronger. You get the presence of the people chasing Sam. You get that whole thing. But when it comes to the overall imposing forces, it needed to feel... I wanted to feel more pressure from Lucian Holdings or the Lightbringers. But like I said, that's my own personal thing. I do tend to personally go for darker, and this is a lighter darker. So not bad. And if I, like I said, me nitpicking as a reader who's probably read thousands of books and even hundreds and hundreds of indie books, that would be the one thing I think would even bring it even higher. So as you can tell, I'm not saying that even the artwork needed to change, even though the technical aspect of like the coloring versus the line weight and stuff like that, if I could choose one thing to really level it up, would be making the opposing forces more present, or actually feel their presence a little bit more. So is this a page turner or a page burner, right? It's a page turner. Not because it's flawless or the most original, but because I kept reading. I went through the whole book, and by the time I was done, I did want to hear or see. I want number 2. I want to experience what this book is going to be when it becomes a trade. There's enough there. The building blocks are getting laying to where if anybody really actually sticks with this as their indie comic book or go-to, you're really going to get something. I know it's building, and it's going to be something that's strong and it's hard hitting. So, but yeah, that is my unprofessional opinion. But you let me know in the comments what you think. like I said, they're going to be on Kickstarter. Go check the link out. Go give them a follow. Get that notify me. Be there first day and get that early reward stuff. But yeah, without any further ado, this is the part where I am selfish. I like to pitch my own book, I Drive for Cerber. It is a paranormal Uber horror comedy book. It's about Jib, who transports paranormal passengers to their destinations, or he dies trying. Sweet, simple, to the point. I Drive for Cerber, issue number 3 is coming to Kickstarter on July 4th, so make sure you're there for that. Hopefully, maybe we'll do some cross promotion between Hellstones and I Drive for Cerber. We'll see what happens. But anyways, until next time, guys, my name is Sean Barbour. If you like the Halloween, the treatment, horror novels, you like Belial, you like I Drive for Cerber in the comic book realm, I'm available. Let me know. Hit me up with a message. Let me know what you think of this episode of In My Unprofessional Opinion. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.